this whole collusion thing that the DOJ thought that they were solving and NAR thought they were giving into. I mean, the reality is I think you've created a bigger problem, but that's just my opinion. Hi guys. Okay, so today I have had a lot of requests, and so today I am going to be sharing the outcome of the NAR, which is National Association of Realtors lawsuit. What does that mean? I've got clients asking me, I've got my realtors asking me, and so this is probably one of the most anticipated videos that people are waiting for in my sphere of influence. And so today I'm going to share it as my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of anyone but myself. As a broker and someone who's been in the business for 30 years, here's what I see, here's what I know. I have been a realtor and broker in all of California, as well as on the East Coast and in Canada. So what I'm going to share is things that I've experienced, my knowledge, and, for anyone out there who wants to troll or doesn't like realtors, you can move on. You don't need to watch this video, but this is for the people who've asked for it. So let's go. Number one, what is this lawsuit all about? The media's got nothing else to focus on, apparently. There's nothing else happening in the world. There's no other genocide or anything happening, so people don't need to watch it. Yeah, this is where, unfortunately, our media has gone to, which is sensationalism. They get onto something and then they want to just continue, and maybe there's a little bit of jealousy or animosity or what towards realtors. And I can understand that. The reality is, and I've said this in a lot of my other videos, we are not selling Sunset, we are not selling New York or $1 Million Listing or whatever these shows are. We are reality. And the reality of the situation is that just like you need a doctor, you need an attorney, you need a realtor, and you need someone who's going to represent you for the biggest purchase of your life. And if you believe that you don't need a realtor, then don't work with a realtor. But if you have nothing else to do than spend your day commenting on videos and trolling them, then you're pathetic. Okay, so here we go. What does this lawsuit mean? What exactly is the media blowing up and trying to distract you from seeing? What is essentially happened is the National Association of Realtors has come up with an agreement to a couple of different lawsuits, copycat lawsuits, where the consumers have felt that they did not know that their realtor was getting compensated. They thought the realtor was working for free. So I don't know why you would think that, but okay. And the sellers didn't realize that they were paying compensation. Now, in California, which is where we are, specifically in the Bay Area, our contracts are very, very clear. There's no other way. And maybe it's because California is a very litigious place. So our California Association of Realtors, shout out to them, hats off to them. They've created contracts that are incredible. And our contract really spell out, you sign a listing agreement with me or any of my agents, you know that as your listing agent, you are paying this percentage. As a buyer's agent, you are paying this percentage. And then there's a total percentage on the top. So there is no confusion in California. What this NAR settlement has essentially agreed to is that the multiple listing services, the MLS, will no longer have a percentage for the buyer's agent. So what does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be any buyer's agents. It means that if you are representing a buyer, you are going to need to sign a buyer-broker agreement, which essentially says, hi, Mr. Buyer, I am your realtor. Not that you didn't know that because I'm showing you houses, but you know that I am your realtor. My fiduciary duty, again, my legal recourse, essentially, I'm committed to you. My job is to share anything I know about this property anything that I find out, I owe you that fiduciary responsibility to let you know. And so you're signing this document. So there's no more implied contract between you and your buyer. You're essentially getting the buyer to commit to you, to working with you. And so, I've had buyers come to me from companies that they were working with before. Maybe they had someone show them properties and they realized that the buyer's agent that they were working with essentially didn't have any knowledge, any experience, and they knew they weren't being represented. So when any buyer, and this is maybe a new thing for National Association of Realtors, a requirement, but for anyone who's worked with me in the past, you know that I have you sign a buyer's broker agreement. I have my agents do the same thing with their buyers. And the reason is as a consumer, you are spending, and I'm speaking California, Bay Area now, you are spending a minimum of $1 million on a single family home. Okay. That would be the median. I'd say the median would be probably 1.1, 1.2. If you're spending $1 million, $2 on a property, do you want to represent yourself? So if you're going to court, would you want to represent yourself? I mean, I always use the term penny wise, pound foolish. I would say, it's like me saying, you know what, I'm going to do my own surgery. I'm going to go and represent myself when I could serve time in prison. I would rather represent myself. Absolutely not. I'm going to hire the best surgeon or the best that I could afford. I'm going to hire the best attorney that I can afford again. So as a buyer, you want to be represented. And here's the flip side. Maybe you don't want to be represented, and that's up to you. That is completely fine. But what happens when you don't get represented as a buyer? So I'm going to move into that. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen if you're not represented as a buyer, if you're not represented as a seller, and what it means to realtors and what this lawsuit means for realtors, for buyers, and for sellers. So number one, what does it mean to realtors? Does that mean that you can no longer represent buyers? Absolutely not. As a realtor, you can still represent a buyer, but one, you get a buyer's broker agreement signed. And number two, you have a very clear conversation with your buyers. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am getting compensated, just in case you thought I was doing this as charity. I'm not. I get represented, and my fiduciary duty is to you. I'm going to go through and tell you why this property is good to purchase or why it's not. Does it have the Vastu? Does it have the Feng Shui? What kind of energy does it have? How is it going to be for resale? What are the disclosures? What did the disclosures say? What are the conversations that you're hearing about this property? Are there going to be multiple offers? And if they are, then we're going to share comparables with you of what things sold for. And we're going to give you a range of what you should pay. And you know what? I personally give you a range and I don't push because I don't know and I don't want to spend your money. So you may not get the first couple of houses that you're going for because maybe I didn't have you write a high enough offer, but you're going through the process, you're learning, and I'm going through every single set of disclosures with you. And I'm telling you what to look for. We're sharing the contract over Zoom or in person. And we're talking about, hey, what are the things that you want to look for when you're purchasing a home? So essentially, you want to know that you're working with a realtor or a broker who's got the experience, who's got the knowledge, and my colleagues and friends and the realtors that work for me. You want to show your value. Now more than ever, people need to understand why and how you bring the value. So that is what's going to happen. We're not going to have commission on the MLS, but guess what? We live in such a bureaucratic society that other private organizations like Rhymes with Pillow, Rhymes with Bedfin, they're going to be able to show you the compensation. And when you see that compensation, you're going to know whether you get paid or not. Now, they argued that, on MLS, the commission was not, realized or apparent, or the buyers or the sellers didn't realize that the commission was being given to a buyer's agent. But now guess what happens? Now you've got agents who have to go and call and talk to the other agent, look on these other private sites and find out if they're going to get paid. Now, we're hoping that everyone shows a property whether they get paid or not, but let's think about it. Would you go to work if you weren't getting paid? Would you just show up? Oh, you know what? I just want to show up and hope I get paid today. That's not how it works. And if NAR or the DOJ think that what they've done is smart, then that's just another story. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you are going to have to, as an agent, negotiate your commission with the buyer, with the seller, pardon me, and the seller's agent, and, be good with that. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get 2.5%, 3%, 1%, 0.5%. Who knows? There's never been a standard 6% or 5% or 4%. Commissions have always been negotiable. So anyone who says, well, you know what, these agents make this kind of money. No, this is all negotiable. And, frankly, you do get what you pay for. I've taken on listings that have been on the market for 2-3 years with realtors, and I go and look. I mean, here's an example. Here's one I just went on, and I've had to take notes, and I was like, oh my gosh, was this person even a realtor? Because the property was listed as the wrong class altogether. And I mean, it was a complete mess, and it's been on the market for 3 years. So if I choose to take on this listing, that means that I need to go and try to fix all the negative stuff that's on the World Wide Web, on the internet. And honestly, that in itself is a lot of work. And as realtors and agents, we do not get paid until something closes. So essentially, let's wrap it up. And this is, I'm getting overcomplicated with it. But essentially, realtors, you still can represent buyers. You just need to get your buyer broker agreement done. You need to sit and speak to them. And then when you're showing properties, you can call the agents. You can look on these other private websites and see if you're getting compensated, have that discussion with your buyers, and make your plan of action. Okay, what does it mean to buyers? Yes, buyers, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you don't need to work with a realtor. Okay, you can go and look at a property and, in the Bay Area, compete for a property on your own. You can go and work with a listing agent and hope that they are going to want to either represent you or guide you for free. And if they do, then great. And if they don't, then you're on your own. And if you buy something that has asbestos or is on a T intersection or is in a bad neighborhood or is not insurable or is not, got the right disclosures, then I'm sorry. That's kind of the risk you take when you don't work with a professional. So as a buyer, you do have a choice. You don't need to work with a realtor. And, I wish you the best of luck. Sellers, if you're working with me, then I'm going to tell you something very candidly. If you don't offer a buyer's agent commission, then depending on the market, your property is not going to sell. I'm going to do everything in my power. The agents that you list with are going to do everything in their power to sell it. But the reality is, these multiple offers and these bids that you've been getting, you may not see those, because if you want bids, you need multiple people to look at your property. And if you're not offering a commission, they're not going to show your property just out of the goodness out of their heart. They're going to show it if they're going to get compensated. So if you're an agent and you're meeting with your sellers, essentially, you're doing the same job. You're probably going to do a lot more than you have in the past, because at this point, you are going to pray that people are going to show your listing, and you're going to try to convince your seller that it behooves them to offer some sort of compensation to the buyer's agent, because you want multiple agents to show your property. And, if they're not getting compensated, then they have a decision to make and it's their prerogative. And yes, I know what NAR says. I know what CAR says. I know what Bay East Association says. I know what Contra Costa says. Everyone says, per your realtor license, you have to act in good faith and show everything. But let's face it and let's face reality. Are you going to show something, or are you going to go to work if you're not going to get paid? Whether you're a realtor or you're someone who works in tech, or you're, someone who works at a restaurant or a grocery store, are you going to go and work if you're not going to get paid, or if there's no guarantee? Now, right now, realtors work. There's no guarantee. You can go out with buyers and they could look at 100 houses and decide not to buy anything. You can't do anything about it. And that's the same thing. But that maybe if they like something and there's a commission being offered, you get paid. At this point, you're shooting in the dark. And I guarantee you, these agents are not going to be shooting in the dark. They're going to be making their calls and doing their due diligence and finding out if they get paid or not. So this whole collusion thing that the DOJ thought that they were solving and NAR thought they were giving into, I mean, the reality is I think you've created a bigger problem. But that's just my opinion. And again, anything I'm sharing is my opinion and kind of what I see possibly happening. But, you guys make the decision. You're all intelligent. You know what that means. But as sellers, if you don't offer another, buyer's agent a commission and you want to get multiple offers, then you better hope that your realtor, your broker, your representative has enough experience and smarts and is willing to put in the work to try to get you those multiple offers without paying that extra 1, 2, 3% commission. And let's think about it. The way the Bay Area has been, and we're still looking at, right now as I'm recording this, it's March 21st, we are still looking at multiple offers. And, I just had a property that we were showing that had 104 disclosure packages out. Do you think 104 agents would download disclosures if they weren't getting paid and they ended up with 30 offers? Do you think that would still happen if they weren't getting, or if there wasn't a guarantee of compensation? I don't think so. So you always have to think about, is what I pay out in commission going to outweigh the bidding? And again, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. Think about what you're doing, do your homework, interview realtors. And this industry is not going anywhere. It's just a little bit of a disruption and a little bit of confusion. This all does not happen until July 1st. So, just do your homework, do your research. I hope this help. Again, if you disagree, move on. I don't need you to agree with me. I'm stating an opinion. I'm stating what I think. And I hope you got some knowledge out of this. And bye for now. And thanks for watching.